Sunday felt like a turning point. 200,000 people gathered in Glendale, Arizona. Millions more watched from home. No one expected what was coming. The news hit like a shockwave. A shooting at Utah Valley University. The victim, conservative activist Charlie Kirk. The suspect, 24-year-old Tyler James Robinson. In the interrogation room, Robinson didn't cry or beg. He simply said 3 chilling words. "They hired me." Within hours, the internet twisted it into a viral storm. They used me. Was Robinson a radical acting alone? Or a pawn for something much bigger? And if he was telling the truth, who used him? Stick around, because what investigators found next will change how you see this entire case. Before we dive in, subscribe and turn on notifications. It started as a normal Sunday event. Bright skies, music, cameras flashing. Charlie Kirk was scheduled to speak at Utah Valley University, surrounded by students, families, and security. But what looked like another stop on his nationwide tour turned into one of the darkest moments in modern America. At 3:47 p.m., witnesses reported hearing 2 sharp cracks, then chaos. People screamed and dropped to the ground as security rushed the stage. Within minutes, emergency alerts flooded social media. Active shooter at UVU campus. The suspect, later identified as Tyler James Robinson, was caught less than an hour later, just a few blocks from the university. Calm, composed, and silent. No panic, no struggle, just quiet compliance. Officers said it was as if he knew exactly what would happen next. Within hours, news stations looped the same footage. Kirk's team being rushed out, the crowd scattering, police lights flashing against the sunset. But the real story wasn't unfolding on the ground. It was unfolding online. Comment sections exploded. Some blamed political hatred. Others swore it was a setup. Memes, theories, and accusations spread faster than the facts could catch up. And as millions argued about motives, one question began to take over every conversation. Why did he do it? The next day, that answer finally came, not from investigators but from Robinson himself. And the 3 words he spoke would send shockwaves through the country. Because when he finally opened his mouth in that cold, fluorescent-lit interrogation room, what he said changed everything. This story is far from over. The room was silent. Just the faint hum of fluorescent lights and the steady whir of a camera in the corner. Tyler James Robinson sat slouched in his orange jumpsuit, wrists cuffed to the table, eyes fixed straight ahead. He didn't ask for a lawyer. He didn't ask for water. He just waited. Detectives had spent days questioning witnesses, chasing leads, building a profile of a radical loner. But when they finally sat across from Robinson, what he said shattered that entire narrative. When asked the question everyone wanted answered, "Why did you do it?" Robinson leaned forward, voice calm and steady, and said 3 words. "They hired me." At first, detectives thought it was a lie, a ploy, maybe an attempt to sound delusional. But the way he said it, deliberate, measured, made the room freeze. It didn't sound like desperation. It sounded like truth. Within hours, the quote leaked. And by morning, it had a new form. The internet's version. "They used me." Clips of the interrogation spread like wildfire. Commentators argued over every frame, dissecting his tone, his expression, his pauses. Was he covering for someone, or trying to expose something bigger? Major networks picked it up. Hashtags trended worldwide. And suddenly, what could have been seen as a lone act of political violence was now something darker. A potential conspiracy. Was Tyler James Robinson a killer? Or a messenger for something that wanted to stay hidden? Because once investigators started digging into his past, they discovered a trail of digital footprints, and every one of them pointed toward something much larger than anyone expected. On paper, Tyler James Robinson looked ordinary, a 24-year-old college student from a quiet neighborhood. But behind closed doors, his life told a very different story. Friends described him as smart but withdrawn, the kind of guy who'd argue for hours online about politics, then disappear for weeks. His grades slipped, his social life faded, and at home the tension was boiling. His father was a vocal supporter of conservative figures like Charlie Kirk. Tyler wasn't. Their arguments went from debates to full-blown shouting matches. According to his father, he stopped talking to us and started listening to voices we couldn't see. Those voices came from encrypted chat rooms and radical online forums. Digital echo chambers where anger and ideology mixed freely. Night after night, Tyler logged in under anonymous usernames, absorbing the rage, the paranoia, the thrill of belonging to something bigger. Investigators would later find that he joined several private groups that thrived on extremist rhetoric. Messages full of frustration, coded threats, and calls for action. It was the perfect storm. A young man isolated, angry, and searching for purpose. For prosecutors, the story was simple. A radicalized young man took his hatred too far. But Tyler's own words, "They hired me," made that explanation feel incomplete. If someone really used him, who were they? And what did they stand to gain from Charlie Kirk's death? That question took center stage the moment a high-profile commentator went on live television and claimed to have inside information that could blow the case wide open. Just days after Robinson's interrogation, the nation was still reeling, trying to process what those 3 words, "They hired me," really meant. Then one broadcast poured gasoline on the fire. On live television, conservative commentator Mark Levin looked straight into the camera and said he had inside information from the investigation. According to him, Robinson hadn't just confessed, he'd also named a federal agency. The moment he said it, everything exploded. Clips of the segment were ripped, re-uploaded, and spread across every platform within hours. Millions watched, rewound, and argued. For some, this was the smoking gun, proof that something deeper was at play. For others, it was reckless, an accusation that could ruin the entire case before it even reached trial. But online, reason didn't matter. Hashtags accusing the government of involvement trended overnight. People began hunting for hidden clues in Robinson's statement, even analyzing the tone of his voice like it was a coded message. And then came the fallout. Students who had once mocked Kirk online started receiving threats. Old posts were dug up and twisted into evidence. Families of both men were harassed, doxxed, and forced offline. What began as a courtroom investigation had now turned into a national battlefield, fought not with facts, but with narratives. And just when it seemed the storm might calm, another leak hit the internet. This time, it wasn't a TV pundit. It was something far more dangerous. A redacted police report, confirming that Robinson had indeed named people in his interrogation. The names were blacked out. But that didn't stop anyone from guessing. Because what came next would push the story into even darker territory, revealing evidence that suggested Tyler Robinson may have never acted alone. The leaked report changed everything. Hidden within the redactions were timestamps, location data, and fragments of dialogue. Just enough for online sleuths to piece together a disturbing theory. Tyler Robinson had inside knowledge of Charlie Kirk's exact movements that day. That detail wasn't public. Not even close. Kirk's team had made a last-minute schedule change that morning, switching the route to the Glendale Arena just hours before the event. Only a handful of people inside the campaign and local law enforcement knew. So how did a 24-year-old college student find out? Investigators combed through his devices, looking for a leak, texts, emails, anything. What they found was stranger. Encrypted chats with unidentified accounts, using burner handles that vanished days before the attack. Every message had been wiped clean except one. A single text sent at 6:42 a.m. that read, "Green light confirmed. Final path verified." To the public, it sounded like a movie script. But to investigators, it was proof someone had given Robinson information he should have never had. And that wasn't all. Footage from a nearby parking structure showed a second vehicle arriving moments before the shooting. Same model, same color as Robinson's, but never found afterward. Coincidence? Maybe. But when paired with that text, it painted a picture that felt less like a lone attack, and more like an operation. Still, with every discovery came new confusion. Who sent that message? Where did the intel leak from? And why was so much of the investigation now being sealed from the public record? Transition. Because the next revelation wouldn't just expose more secrets. It would drag the story straight into the world of politics, media manipulation, and power. Once the leak went public, Washington ignited. Politicians raced to take sides before the facts even landed. Within 24 hours, cable news was split into two realities. One claiming Tyler Robinson was part of a coordinated plot, the other insisting it was all a smear designed to silence dissent. But behind the noise, something more calculated was unfolding. Campaign strategists saw an opportunity. Within hours, fundraising emails were flying out from both ends of the spectrum. "They're hiding the truth," one side warned. "Don't let extremists rewrite history," said the other. The shooting wasn't just a tragedy anymore. It was a political weapon. And as attention grew, so did the manipulation. Anonymous accounts began pushing conspiracy threads, mixing real evidence with fake documents and edited screenshots. Even verified journalists got caught repeating information that didn't exist. The line between truth and fiction was gone. But here's where it got truly strange. Weeks later, a cybersecurity analyst dropped a bombshell. Dozens of those anonymous accounts spreading disinformation traced back to the same digital fingerprint. Someone was deliberately seeding chaos from the inside. That discovery sent investigators scrambling. Whoever was running those accounts wasn't doing it for clicks or politics, they were burying something. And as Congress demanded answers, federal agencies suddenly went quiet. No statements, no updates, just silence. That's when people began asking the question no one wanted to say out loud. Was this cover-up bigger than anyone imagined? Because the next chapter would uncover the most chilling twist yet. A hidden connection between Tyler Robinson and one of the very agencies investigating him. It started with a quiet discovery. One line buried deep in an old internship file. Investigators found that Tyler Robinson had once worked briefly as an IT assistant at a data analysis firm. A firm that, coincidentally, held a government contract with the very agency now leading the investigation into him. At first, it seemed meaningless. But when journalists dug deeper, they uncovered emails showing that during his short time there, Robinson had access to encrypted federal systems, the kind used to handle background checks and travel clearances. He wasn't supposed to have that clearance, but someone had manually approved it. No one could explain who. That's when theories turned into suspicion. Was Tyler just a disgruntled student, or had someone placed him in that position for a reason? A whistleblower came forward claiming internal memos existed linking Robinson's credentials to an off-books project run out of a federal satellite office. The project's codename? Echo Field. But before the whistleblower could testify, they disappeared from public view. No interviews, no online posts, nothing. By now, the story was spiraling. Former agents began weighing in, claiming Echo Field had ties to psychological testing programs, operations meant to study manipulation and influence through digital media. If that was true, then Tyler Robinson wasn't just a suspect. He might have been a subject. Reporters tried to verify, but every request for documentation was denied, classified for national security. Even the firm where Robinson worked suddenly shut down its website overnight. It was as if every piece of his past was being erased in real time. And just when it seemed like the truth might never surface, a hacker group stepped forward, claiming they had proof of what Echo Field really was. Late one night, an encrypted video appeared on a dark web forum known for whistleblowers. The upload came from a hacker collective calling itself Glass Key. Their message was simple but explosive. "We have the Echo Field files." Within hours, screenshots began leaking across X and Telegram channels. The documents, stamped classified, described a covert program testing behavioral triggers on college students. According to the files, the project's goal was to see how easily a young person could be radicalized or steered toward specific actions with targeted digital content. And then came the most damning piece. Buried in a footnote was a list of test subjects, identified only by code names. One of them matched Robinson's student ID number. Glaskey claimed the program wasn't just about research, it was about field testing influence in real-world scenarios. Their final post ended with a chilling line. This wasn't an experiment gone wrong. This was an experiment completed. The leaks went viral instantly. Cable news called it the biggest scandal since Snowden. Politicians demanded answers. Protests erupted on campuses across the country. Some people now believed Robinson was deliberately pushed toward violence, a lab rat in a psychological operation. Meanwhile, the FBI and Department of Justice issued flat denials, calling the leaks fabricated disinformation, but they refused to release the full Echofield files to prove it. And Glaskey, they vanished as quickly as they'd appeared, their accounts deleted, their servers wiped. What had started as one shocking act of violence had now blown open a story about government manipulation, private contractors, and psychological control programs, the kind of story that could shake public trust for years. But the final twist was still to come, because just as the country began to grasp what Echofield might really be, a hidden video of Tyler Robinson surfaced, recorded before the shooting, and it changed everything. Just as the country started piecing together the Echofield leaks, a new video dropped, and it changed everything. Shaky phone footage, timestamped 2 days before the shooting. Tyler Robinson sits alone in his dorm, eyes locked on the camera. If you're watching this, they know what I did, but they also know why. None of this was my idea. Then he holds up a sheet of paper. One word written in black ink, Echo. The screen cuts to black. Within minutes, the clip exploded online. Was it a confession? A warning? Or proof he was being controlled? No one knew. The original vanished, just like whoever was behind it. That video didn't end the story. It blew it wide open. If you think this story ends here, think again. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because what investigators uncovered next will change everything.